Hello, neighbor. We're back for segment 2 with Kendra Bazile and Junior, close family friend. And so you will recall from segment 1, Miss Bazile indicated what her goals were, and I'm sure everyone will remember there was a very unfortunate incident, an accident late or in the early morning. And it's my understanding that you may have a few issues with first responders from that morning. So I'll let you take it from there. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I just want to start off by saying that I do appreciate the work of first responders.
Right.
They have a very tough job. They see a lot of things, and they do a great work. And so to all of those that carry out their responsibilities with integrity and honesty, I applaud them.
Sure. Yeah, this conversation is not to denigrate or disparage or marginalize any of the work that first responders do day in and day out. We both appreciate and recognize they have a tough job.
Yes.
Very good.
So after we laid my son to rest is when my mind was free to process these things. And so about a week after his death, I remember just sitting at home and thinking, who was the first person on the scene?
Okay.
So I made a phone call to the fire chief of Baton Rouge Fire Department, and I requested to speak with some of the first responders that were on the scene.
Okay.
And his response was that he would have to talk to the parish attorney and he would get back to me. So
you didn't get any answers during that conversation?
No definitive answers. So about another 2 weeks go by and I still haven't heard anything back from the fire chief. So I decided to request public records, the incident reports from the fire department. And once I received those reports, it really wasn't telling me very much information.
Okay.
One of my questions was what life-saving measures were provided, if any,
by anyone on the scene?
By first responders, by anyone on the scene. So having a friend that works for another fire department, he encouraged me to reach out again to the fire chief to follow up on that conversation. So I did, and before I made that second call to the chief, I made a call to the parish attorney's office.
Okay.
And telling them what I was looking for. I spoke to Greg Rome.
Okay.
And he had one of his attorneys follow up with me. And I was told by that attorney that really the discretion or the choice to allow first responders to talk to family members, it rests with the fire chief.
Okay.
So when I spoke to Chief Kimball a second time, I let him know that I did speak with the attorney's office and what I was told, and he did acknowledge that yes, it is up to his discretion and that he wanted to help out as a public servant. So he would talk to those crew members that worked the scene to see if they were comfortable talking to me, and if so, then we would all meet at headquarters and just have a discussion. In that conversation, he told me to give him about 2 days, 2-3 days to get back with me because he wanted to help. Well, it didn't take 2 days. I got a call back the very same day, maybe about 2 hours later, and the chief told me that he was making a choice to not allow me to speak with any of his
Did he give a reason? Do you remember?
His reason was, this is a choice he's made. It's up to him, and he said this is where it ends.
Okay.
And you didn't have the CAT report, or you didn't have the reports then, or did you had already gotten that?
Yes, so at that
You
point,
had-
I did have the fire incident reports.
And that didn't make sense.
And it didn't
That's why
really
you
give
went
me
to
any
him.
details. It didn't give me any details as to what was done, what was found. So I explained to him that that was my reason for wanting to speak to someone who was there.
To
Just
get answers.
Get answers, just to fill in the blanks,
Mhm.
basically. But that did not happen.
Okay.
So that was a dead end with
Yeah,
the fire
that
department.
was a dead end. That was a dead end.
And so the next step was,
So the next step, and let me backtrack. So up until this point, the only 911 call we knew about was the one made by the bystander at 154.
Okay.
Just so happened, as I was going through my son's things, his Apple Watch showed that there were 2 earlier 911 calls placed from his phone,
Mm-hmm.
which led me to dig a little bit deeper. So now we checked his phone carrier, we checked his phone log, and there we did see 2 calls that came from his phone number, 1:35 and 1:36 a.m.
Okay.
So from that point, I got in touch with EMS headquarters, and I spoke to the communications chief. I think that's her title. And she looked back in her system, and she found those 2 calls
Okay.
from my son's phone. And she said they came in as automated crash calls.
she told you that?
She told me that.
Right.
That because I was wondering if my son had physically dialed 911
Mhm.
or if it was his car system. And so she was able to confirm for me that it was the car's system
Okay.
that placed those calls to 911. In that conversation, I asked her what actions were taken from those 2 earlier calls. And she told me that from those calls, law enforcement, fire department, and EMS were sent out from
Okay.
those
From those calls.
earlier calls
All right.
from my son's car. However, the reports, the incident reports that I had gathered did not show that.
Okay.
So
How would it show?
it showed that those agencies were not dispatched until the 154 call by the bystander.
19 minutes after the first call. Okay.
Yes, yes. So my question was, why wasn't everybody sent out from those initial calls? Because in the recording, you can hear the car's
Mhm.
message saying there has been a crash in a Ford vehicle.
Okay.
So it's alerting the operator that this is indeed
A serious
a
incident.
serious incident,
Right.
a legitimate call.
The person that either disabled, can't respond, can acknowledge.
Exactly.
It gives that awareness to the operator.
Exactly. So during that call with the communications chief, I requested the 911 recordings.
Okay.
And in a few days, she was able to provide me with those recordings. So I followed up with her maybe 5, 6 days later. And this is when I expressed to her the inconsistency from what she told me about the actions that were taken from the earlier calls,
Uh-huh.
and it did not line up with what the report said.
I see.
So the story now changed from,
You sent everybody.
yeah, we sent everyone, it now went from that to we only sent out law enforcement.
Okay.
My question was, well, why would you only send out law enforcement to a vehicle crash?
Okay.
Well, and the bigger question is why acknowledge or say that you sent everybody in response to the initial 911 calls and that wasn't true. That wasn't reality. And so when you listen to the two calls, well, I guess we can talk about that in a second as far as what you heard. But where you ended up was their response. What was their response to the disconnect on being dispatched from the 911 calls to being dispatched when the witness drove up on the accident? At some point you challenged them and said, hey, why is there a discrepancy? Do you know what the response was? Or was there any response? Did they acknowledge that it was a mistake? Or
Well, you know, during this conversation with communications chief at EMS, when I started to press a little bit and to, you know, talk about the timestamps on the reports, you know, and why it was only law enforcement sent. And the reason I got for that was that is their policy to only send law enforcement until there is a confirmed injury.
so, and let's talk about that a little bit. The first call came in. What do we think happened in that first call? I know we've talked about it several times. Like collectively, we know it disconnected. We know it played though. So when the EMS operator answered and acknowledged the 911 call, we know they heard it, but it doesn't seem like there was any interaction. Or what do you think happened in that first call?
So on the first call, when listening to the 911 recording, the message, the automated message, which says there has been a crash in a Ford vehicle, is playing before the operator picks up. By the time the operator picks up on that very first call, the recording has stopped.
Oh, okay.
So the first 911 operator does not hear that recording. So she picks up, answers, asks what's the emergency, and that is when we can hear my son say, help me. Albeit it's in a low tone, he's saying, help me. Shortly after that, the call disconnects.
And that's a technical feature by Ford Assist that we confirmed with Ford, that after so many minutes it disconnects and then it calls a second time and then...
So from my understanding, and from my research on this 911 assist feature, the occupant would not be able to disconnect the call.
Okay.
So the disconnect would have to come on the other end, on the operator's end. Why that call dropped, I do not know. But in my research, I did find that the call center have had issues with dropped calls.
Okay.
So, yes, I did find that in my research. So that's not a new thing.
Ford Assist drop calls or just drop calls, period?
The call center,
Gotcha.
the East Baton Rouge
Regular 911
911
calls.
call center had been having problems with calls dropping
Good job.
on their end.
Gotcha.
So on the second 911 call, this time the automated recording is playing as the operator answers. So he hears the recording that says, this is an automated crash, or there has been a crash in a Ford vehicle. He hears that. Right after that, when he answers, again, my son says, help. This time, it's a little bit louder.
Okay.
Right after my son says, help, I can hear the operator hitting the button to get the GPS coordinates, which he is able to get. Again, shortly after he gets that, the call drops. But now the car does not call a third time because it has completed
Successfully
Ah.
acknowledged.
the cycle.
Yeah.
Right, there is acknowledgement.
Right. Right. And so I remember at some point we were talking and you were having a conversation, I don't remember who it was with, but they, in so many words, said that they believed there was no signs of life among impact during the accident. That it was his perception or thought that life-saving measures didn't initiate life-saving measures because he was deceased on impact. And then I understand that there was forensics analysis of the cause, and based on the forensics analysis from an expert, what were...
Yes, so, yes, we did have the 911 recordings analyzed by an expert, a court-qualified expert in video forensics, image analysis, audio forensics, digital forensics, and mobile device forensics. He has been an audio engineer for 51 years, and in 2024 alone, he has worked on 114 cases.
114 in 2024 alone, okay.
Yes.
And he heard the voice.
He did confirm in both calls, in the first call that my son said, "Help me."
Okay.
And in the second call, he said, "Help." So we have proof that Jordan did initially survive the accident, and he was asking for help. And I would just like to read verbatim
Sure.
the conclusion of his report.
Sure.
The analysis, yeah.
Of the analysis. In conclusion, the dispatching of a deputy for a hang-up when the urgency was very clear was the wrong response and inadequate given the knowledge conveyed in the second 911 call. There is no way to know if a proper response would have saved Mr. Whitley, but it would have increased that possibility. I am also left with the question in my mind as to how many other similar mistakes have occurred and whether those mistakes cost lives.
Wow.
So he's acknowledging that there's no way to know, no one can never know what would have happened in the gap of 19 minutes that we gain back if it's properly dispatched as an accident with injuries that the Ford Assist clearly acknowledged. There's no way to know that. But going back to what you said before, it adds another layer of contradiction. It adds another layer of discrepancy when you have someone saying, you know, he likely didn't survive the crash, so we're not going to provide any life-saving measures. And then we have proof that it appears that there is life, that it appears that there is signs of life upon immediate impact of the crash. It just adds more contradictions, which then requires you to dig deeper and trying to find more answers to figure out what happened. So,
yes.
All righty, well, folks. Well, I think everyone would have to agree that we're delving deeply into this. It's one of the advantages of the Blog Versus newscast. Things don't have to be rushed, although I will again reiterate that 13 minutes is an awfully long time for an investigative feature, but we are not done. We are going to be back with segment 3. As I said, this is a deep dive. So, folk, I think you ought to be intrigued. We look forward to bringing you segment 3 of this fascinating feature very soon. Thank you so much for your dedication.